Watercolor drip painting is super fun and relaxing, and it makes really great structures and backgrounds for more complicated drawings. It's a great jumping off point. Subscribe if you love art. I'm using a set of Prang pan watercolors, but this technique works really well with liquid watercolor. You could even water down acrylic paint if you wanted. I'm using a pointed brush. I'm using a lot of water. You need a paper towel, a surface to paint on top of, and thick watercolor paper. I'm going to dab a bunch of water in any section of my paper. This method, you really do want to use a lot of water, and I'm going to start with just any color of my choice, and I'm going to dab it in. I'm going to lift the paper, and I'm going to let gravity do the rest. The more water you add, the heavier your drips will be, and the more your drips will fall. It will cause it to be a little lighter, so I'm going to take my brush again, and I'm going to layer the same color on top. You can also let it dry and then come back to it. The fun thing about this technique is you can try really hard to control your water, or you can just let it go, and the drips create random patterns and structures that you can have some control over, but you also kind of have to let the water and the paint have a mind of their own. It doesn't matter how many colors you use, just make sure you clean your brush each time. And I'm starting from my edges and corners, but you can start in the center. You can start anywhere that you would like. It's really fun to add multiple colors and see how the water runs and interacts and mixes directly on the page. You can keep it really light. You can make it really dark. You can add some splatters. This is a really fun way to fill a sketchbook page. The results are beautiful, but I also love it as backgrounds for printmaking or for backgrounds for some Zentangle pattern drawing. I'm going to continue painting here all around my edges, adding a little bit more water. And again, if you feel like your drips aren't dripping, you just need more water on your brush or your paper. Let's try some black and see how that looks. I know it's going to dominate some of these lighter colors, and I love how it's dripping down and creating emphasis and making the lines that I already created pop even more. This would be really fun to do with India ink and different colors of ink as well. I'm going to do a second coat here, and you can see how dominant the black is, but I love how it looks, and I do know that it's going to dry a little bit lighter. Let's continue painting until we have our surface covered as much as we would like, and then I'm going to show you what to do once your paper dries to make your paper have a little bit more of a darker or brighter look. So my paint is dry and I could stop here, but if you're not happy with your color or you want to add more visual interest, you can add more paint and then emphasize your colors, contrast your colors, or just make them stand out a little bit more from the page. Every brand of paint is going to handle it a little bit different, so it depends on how expensive your paint is, and your paper makes a big difference too. If it's a nice watercolor paper, you will see a difference. I've done this on drawing paper before, and it works. It just doesn't absorb the paint as much as a nicer color. So you can see I'm just going back over the green, going back over the colors that I have already used. And I know, see how the black was like really dark on the page, and then when it dried to be a lighter gray. So that's good to know when using paint, that it's going to depend on the brand, it's going to depend on the paper, and also paint always dries a little bit different. It looks different once it's dry and the water has evaporated. Now that I have my other colors on there, I'm itching for a little bit of contrast, so I am going to add some black paint just to give it that nice pop. I feel like a second layer is just gonna be really nice and to give it a really contrasted look. So I'm gonna continue painting here, and I'm gonna let it dry and show you some options of what you can do if you want to add to your watercolor paper. It looks beautiful just the way it is. It's a fun way to paint. It's nice and simple. You don't have to think too much about it, but they also make great surfaces for drawing. So this is what it looks like nice and dry. I love the color scheme. I love how the splatters look, and this would make a really great background for drawing, or it would be just fine the way it is. So if you want to add some patterns to the empty spaces, that's a fun activity too. Thank you so much for sticking around and making art with me. And if you're interested in more painting tutorials, check these out. Visit my website, thatartteacher.com, for full-length lesson plans and student examples, all for free. And find me on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook for some more short-form content.